Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us on this very sunny Thursday evening. Before anything else, I'd like to begin by acknowledging that we're streaming to you from the traditional lands of the Wurundjeri and Boon Wurrung peoples of the Kulin Nations. I'd like to pay my respects to their elders past, present, and emerging, and I'd also like to extend that respect to any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander viewers who may be tuning in this evening. I'd like to invite everybody to reflect, especially given the timing of our event, which is only a day after Invasion Day, on the harsh and sobering realities of colonization and the fact that the ramifications of it are ongoing. So we are now in the penultimate evening of Mapping Melbourne 2020-2021. My name is Adolfo Aranjuez. I am a writer, editor, and dancer, and secretly also a Mapping Melbourne artist. So head to the website to check out my piece in this year's event. And of course, Mapping Melbourne, which you should know, is an incredible program that celebrates the artistry and ingenuity of Asian diaspora, Asia Pacific region, and Asian Australian artists, creatives, thinkers, all around amazing people. This year, we'd like to thank the partners who have made this event possible: City of Melbourne, Creative Victoria, and Australia Council for the Arts. And tonight we will be premiering two works, both of which premised on dance, but have taken it in very, very drastically different directions. The first of these, which I'll get into now, is Agak-Agak by Janette Hoe. Now, before we get into that, we are about to realize one of my long-held dreams. Now, I've hosted a lot of events and I've chaired a lot of panels, but this will be my first time being able to say this in earnest and meaning it. Here's one I prepared earlier. Enjoy. Hi, Janette. Thank you for joining us this evening, or this morning, but by the time we play this, it'll be evening.
Yes. Hi, Adolfo. It's really good to be able to finally see you face to face.
Face to face. We've met before, but yes, again. And I actually quite love this palette balance that you've got here, this red hue between your outfit and the outfit in the background.
Well, it's the graphic designer in me kicking in.
Oh, yes, I see that. I appreciate balance, palette, love it. So before we dive into Agak-Agak, I'd love to talk about your practice generally. So your dance and performance work is rooted in both contemporary and in Butoh, but you also expand it to incorporate improvisation. You're also committed to site specificity and to representing your hybrid cultural background. What drives the art that you create, and how do you bring all of these expansive themes and inspirations together?
I think to begin with, I'll give you a context of my history. I moved here in 88 and then studied graphic design and went back to Malaysia to work for about 5 years. And it was during that time in Malaysia that I came across Butoh through a performance I had gone to by Taro Dance Theatre. And Taro Dance Theatre is a Butoh company that used to exist in Malaysia, in Kuala Lumpur, led by and created by Lina Ang. I was so drawn to what I saw. It was visceral. It took me into a different world. And immediately I saw that as something familiar, but at the same time, not quite sure what it was. But I knew that it spoke to me viscerally and it really opened up my senses. And that, to me, I felt as if that was a way into something that I always wanted to do, which was dance as a child. I thought, without any dance training, I'm going to jump into this. And so I approached Lina and finally joined the company. And the first thing that I was exposed to was an outdoor rehearsal training. So that built the foundation for me, I think, in terms of being working site specifically, and also in Butoh, Lina Ang's style of Butoh. Mm-hmm. So and it's from there that I grew into working with improvisation, because a lot of the work we did was built on improvisation. And I find improvisation an important aspect in working on site, because I'm responding not just internally from an interior world, but also to the external world as well. And there's a certain level of attention that I need to bring out in my awareness to what's around me in order to respond or make choices based on that interaction between what's going on inside and what's going on outside of me. Don't know if that answers the question, but Butoh has been a constant in my life. Coming back to Australia, I started working with Yumi a little bit here and there, Yumi Umi Mare, and
Yes.
Tony Yap, who doesn't quite say that he's a Butoh dancer, but there are a lot of aspects that Tony does, which is a lot of interior choreography that happens within that. His work that I feel is very closely related to Butoh, the trance work that he does. And and also things like yoga and a bit of qigong and bits of body-mind centering, all those sorts of somatic movement modalities have been a part of my development as a dancer. Don't know if that answers.
No, it does. It does. You've offered a really rich picture of both the backdrop of where you came from, but as well as the kind of the current impetus for the work that you create. And I have to say, selfishly, as I'm a fellow dancer as well, as you know, but definitely on the other end of the spectrum, more on the hip hop, urban, and commercial side of things, which the way you've explained this relationship between the internal and the improvisation being responsive to the environment is very, very different to the dance that I work with, which is that we kind of create everything in reaction to the music or stimuli, but then that's not necessarily rooted to any specific place. So it's all very interesting to know. Thank you for those insights. Absolutely. And so now to Agak-Agak itself. The title translates loosely to guess, or more or less in Malay. And your work is premised on, this work is premised on the loose nature of memory and daydreaming. Very, very kind of beautiful concept. What inspired you to take on that subject matter?
A lot of the work I do, I believe that memory is imprinted in our body. Cellularly, as well as it takes back to the generations that we come from in our lineage. Actually, originally, I wasn't going to do anything about grandmother. The original idea for the Mapping Melbourne program I wanted to present was called Stillness, but it was a whole new piece. So I was like, oh, do I really want to go down that way? So, but then somehow through conversations with my collaborators, they were going, you've done things about memory and grandmother. Why don't we go down that way and expand on it? And one thing that my grandmother used to say a lot was Agak-Agak. If I ask her, how much sugar do I put into this mixture to make the kueh? She'll go, Agak-Agak lah. So it's that sense of Agak-Agak, it's like almost like memory as well. It's also fragmented. You don't actually have I don't feel like memory is a definitive. You fill in the blanks where you can to make up this picture. And so that's a bit like Agak-Agak as well. You kind of have a sense of it. And that the keyword being sense, it's very much, I feel, an intuitive thing. Mm-hmm. And it's in the work that I do, I feel like the senses are a big part of it, and the feeling, the sensing, and activating, engaging of the senses, that's a big part of it. And the word Agak-Agak seems to bring that out for me in this work. And the word itself, you kind of in life as well. I feel as if it's all a case of intuition, and you might do this, you might do that, and it's all a little bit of guesswork, a little bit of feeling.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that
so kind of like knowing through doing, sort of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, I've already seen the work, of course, to ask these questions, to come up with these questions for you, but I'm very excited for the audience to see it. So I think this might be the perfect time to do so, to get a sense of what this Agak-Agak concept is. Everybody, please enjoy Agak-Agak, premiering now.
tumbuk cili cabai cili tumbuk cabai tumbuk cabai
Leo xịt phần bố mẹ thấy chưa dập lên xịt phần cô dập lên xịt phần
ini duduk makan ambil sendok nasi ada nah ada nasi sendok nasi makan sendok nasi senang mari makan sendok nasi Onde makan ada gula melaka dalamnya ada gula melaka dalamnya tidak ada duit balik nanti makan nasi sejuk cepat kasih panas ada itu nasi kasih panas sudah sejuk ada nanti balik nanti ada sejuk nasi kasih panas
Oh, such a tremendous work, Janette. Thank you for making it.
Thank you.
I particularly love how there's this like collision between, you know, the moments of intimacy, but also this sense of, I wouldn't call it distancing, but this kind of, you know, a dizzying feeling of not quite being able to find the ground, or, you know, like a floating sensibility to it. So no, thank you so much. So beautiful. But yeah, the piece is quite abstract in a way, you know, particularly in the choice of the cinematographic approach. Why did you opt for that form instead of, you know, a more straightforward dance performance?
It was really an experiment. I wanted to work with my hands because it's something that I use a lot in dance, and also it's the most immediate tactile contact I have with an external world, you know, the touching and all that. And it was also hands I find are very interesting because they're also, they have a function, but at the same time, what we do with our hands, they have their own character because of that. I don't know, maybe it's that being functional, but it seems that a lot is captured in the hand. I once went for a workshop with Kazuo Ono-san, Yoshito Ono, and he said that Kazuo Ono said the way you hold a rose says a lot about your hands, something along those lines, and that really stuck with me, and I wanted to capture the sensations and the senses through these abstract moments rather than having a storyline. It's a bit like memories as well. It's, you get little snippets of images that come to mind, and also using a new medium like video. It's really sometimes hard to convey feelings and like in a live show. So I was playing with the editing and also ways of creating the most, I guess, trying to create little worlds, snippets of vignettes to convey feelings, emotions, and sensations. And thing with the garlic, for example, the holding of the garlic, that somehow it makes me smell garlic for some strange reason. And the tactility of objects like, the kaffir lime, the smoothness of it, the walls that you see. I'm a big sucker for texture as well, particularly because, that tactility of it. So, yeah, it was a little bit of an experiment for me to try and capture these little vignettes of sensations through a new medium.
And I noticed in the credits as well that you collaborated with fellow Mapping Melbourne artists, Ria Sumajo and Mindy Meng Wang, who I spoke to, well, it was yesterday in chronological time, but last week in internet time. And yeah, like you're all you've worked together numerous times before, and I'm sure in the future as well. Why is collaboration important to you artistically?
Well, just to start with, I've worked with Ria a lot, and with Mindy last year with in Victoria Chiu, who's going to be featured as well in the same program day in What Happened in Shanghai. So I often like working collaboratively because it adds layers to the work, and it enriches the work. It gives the work different perspectives, and sometimes working alone, I get bogged down by my own ideas or my own thinking and my own habitual way of working. So having that impetus from other people, other artists, not only adds layers, but also expands on the work. Like, with music, for example, it engages a different sense, and it kind of brings these elements into this rich and new whole, away from what I had imagined. So that sense of surprise and chance is really I find really special in how work actually grows from that. So yeah, and working with these two amazing musicians has been really fulfilling for me. Like Ria's amazing voice and Mindy's Gujin just has, for me, it feels I get this historical link to a culture, but yet it's today, it's contemporary. It's not, it adds to, I guess, the work in what I'm trying to convey without being too, I guess, not that traditional's bad, but it's today, it's our time. But at the same time, there is a link to a past as well.
Such wonderful ideas. Well, thank you again so much for creating this haunting, very immersive, very tactile, visually tactile, which sounds oxymoronic, but it does make sense definitely as you've put it. And yeah, we look forward to seeing more of your work in the future.
Yeah, well, there will be more. There's quite a lot more. I've been working with Ria at the Abbotsford Convent on finding out more about the trees there. So with our residency's finished, but we're going to continue working as the Echoes Project, exploring trees. And then on the 28th of February at M Pavilion, I'll be doing a bit of work there with Tony Yap and his company in Quiver with the few of the women, Gretel Taylor, Lynn Santos, Helen Smith, Lisa Etheridge. I think we're going to be doing a piece together as part of that umbrella. And then I've got this other thing in another performance out in Kyneton Museum, which will happen in June. So there's quite a bit lined up. Oh, and in the next 2 weeks, I'll be working with Nari Vachanandan for her PhD performance. We'll be filming that in the next 2 weeks. So there's quite a lot. Oh, and one more thing, Kue Lapis, I'll be working with the amazing Mindy and Ria and Taka again. Takashi did the videography for Agak-Agak. He's been a great provocateur. So it's been great working with him. And Umi Umare will be coming in as another provocateur for Kue Lapis, next creative development. So there's quite a bit lined up, and I'm really excited. I'd like to explore film again with a filmmaker, hopefully. So yeah.
I'm busy.
Post-lockdown.
Yes, a creative time. It's good to be busy. I think artists appreciate the stimulation.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you again, Janette.
It was my pleasure. Thank you so much for your questions. It's been a pleasure talking and having that conversation with you and to present Agak-Agak. Thank you, Mav. Thank you, Abbotsford Convent as well. Some of that, the Agak-Agak work was filmed at the Abbotsford Convent. So thank you, everyone, for watching.
And we're back in real time. Ticking that off my list, as I said, but having now experienced it, I have to say, watching your own facial expressions, kind of surreal, kind of weird. All right, moving on to the second half of our event for this evening. We are launching Centre for New Geography featuring Victoria Chiu and Hannah Miller and Jacob Perkins of RDYSTDY Studio in conversation with me. Hello, hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi,
Oh, just Hannah Miller, no Jacob Perkins, it seems.
Later.
It's fine. We will survive without the Jacob. How are you both going?
Good.
Yeah,
day.
good.
Thank you for joining me this evening. So very excited to promote your work, premiere and premiere your work this evening. I forgot to mention, sorry, audience, if you experienced any glitches while watching Janette's work just before, you can head to the NAV website. Not right now because that's rude because we're about to have a conversation, but afterwards you can watch it there. Sorry, interrupting my conversation with you. I'm also rude. Maybe I'll start with talking about just you as artists and as people. So you've both, amassed an incredible, immense number of credits as creatives. Victoria as choreographer and performer. Hannah through obviously the visual production studio RDYSTDY. How did the two of you enter one another's orbit, and how did you come to collaborate on this work?
Well, yeah, Hannah, you can say where we met.
Well, Victoria and I, we met at a slip and slide party in the park. We both live in the same neighborhood. And we, I found out Vic was a choreographer, and I told her that I'm a video artist and I've worked with choreographers, and that was it. The rest is history.
Yeah.
So then we met up and we actually started talking about this project a few years ago. That was when we met. So it's been, and it was something that we're both interested in. So we just kept talking about it.
Wow. And so
Yeah.
how did the germ of this specific work come about then? I mean, slip and slide is not quite, well, I mean, from my experience of the work, it's not quite directly related to what we're about to see.
It was a bit of serendipity, and it's actually a string of projects that arrived at this point. So, you know, it wasn't one specific thing that that brought this iteration, and you know, everything has influenced it. You know, and COVID being the last big thing that's influenced it. But yeah, it's something. It's actually the seed of an idea, which is why I love Mapping Melbourne, because Mapping Melbourne can just seed an idea and gives you that a bit of space to really see where the potential is. So we just we were able to take the idea out of our words and our minds, and actually experiment with it.
Yeah, and I think when we first met, because we exchanged stories about our various backgrounds and the different places that influenced our sense of identity and our work and stuff. And so we had that kind of interest in common, which has fed into Center for New Geography. You'll see there's a lot of other dancers' stories and in there as well.
Yeah. And I think what was interesting for me as a choreographer at that point, a couple of years ago even now, and you know, it's slowly unfolded, was that I wanted to take dance, take it out of its normal live stage environment, and take the dancers as well with the project. You know, there's so much I really respect and love about dancers, and so I wanted their life experience and how they see the world to be a focal point.
Amazing. Well, audience, just quickly, don't forget you can ask questions in the chat. I didn't mention this earlier. You've really thrown, this whole pre-record thing has thrown me off my script, but don't forget, audience, you can ask questions. Leave them in the chat, and if we see them, we will call out and answer it in the live format, because we are live. So, Victoria, you just mentioned working with dancers, and in creating this work, you did work with Nebahat Epolat, Katina Olsen, Raina Peterson, and Christina Chan. So what were their respective contributions to the piece, and what was it like working, you know, with such powerhouses?
Yeah, they're just incredible artists, and they bring an amazing diversity into the work. And again, we can only with the constraints or the time frame as well. We can only scratch the surface with working with them. You know, it would be amazing. Yeah, maybe I'll go into that later. But yeah, so yes, it was amazing to work with all four and we developed a process, and we started off with just a bit over 20 questions, which we sent to the dancers. So we worked remotely with them. It's all been remote, and and then we chatted and we formulated tasks, and you know, Hannah and Jake helped me formulate tasks as well that were going to be okay for the outcome, you know, for the video outcome and sound, or you know, technical and framing, and you know, like, so yeah. Can you add anything, Hannah?
Well, I think so. Maybe, I hope I'm not preempting any of your questions, Adolfo, but just to clarify what it is that we're talking about. So when Vic and I first talked about this project a couple of years ago, the idea was that we'd, you know, contact a few choreographers and have this conversation with them about, you know, what places are significant to you, And then ideally we'd go with them to those places and see how they affected them, you know, in real time, and what kind of choreography they'd come up with in those places. And then we'd film them there, and then we'd film the place and get all these snippets, you know, as much as possible to create a sense of that place. And then a year or so later, we thought, okay, what if then we were able to recreate all those places into one whole new place that was like, you know, a whole collection of, you know, like a truly cosmopolitan place. But that was an installation, it was a dance work as an installation, where the installation is all moving images. So the audience, instead of sitting in front of a live performance, they get to wander through this new place that was collaboratively created and see the dancers in those spaces. And so, but now this Center for New Geography as it is now is a digital version of that place. So it's like a digital place that you can visit and that you have to physically, but not physically, digitally, physically wander around and figure out, like, you know, where do I go? How do I get there? What's this? So it's a, you know, you'll see soon, but it's a digital kind of, it's a hub. And so, what's the point of what I'm saying? Anyway, so yeah, we can show you some images if that's helpful.
Yeah, well, actually, let's do that. Let's show them a video, a 1-minute video teaser. So it's not something that we can show in its entirety for you, audience. So you'll have to leave at the end of this and experience it for yourself. But for now, here's a little teaser.
You had a great granddad. Colin Wang. Love dancing.
She had a baby. She really wanted me, the baby, to experience nature. I remember Mum saying that she wanted to mainly because of the space, the openness, sky and parks that actually had grass and trees in them as opposed to concrete. I think Hong Kong was a very exciting experience.
Lovely. And we'll have some little images for you, audience, just on the fourth screen here, just to keep you tantalized as we continue our conversation. Yeah, so you can really get this sense of placedness, embeddedness in that clip. And you know, just from the name itself, you know, geography is a key theme in this piece, talking about places of significance. But obviously, geography isn't just about, you know, space and location. It's also about, you know, boundaries, thresholds, intersections. Was that kind of thematic idea part of your thinking behind, you know, putting the work together in this way?
Yeah, I think the artists we're working with have really interesting intersections and connection to places and different places and respect for all places. So, and their histories are all unique and really interesting. And, you know, yeah, it's really, there's so much more, really, there's so many places to go from here with details and different ways to work with with the four amazing artists. And it would be amazing to work with them on site. So to go on site, to even go overseas on site. I know that's a ridiculous idea right now, but yeah, but yeah, but it would be amazing to go to move around, like yeah, and connect back. Always connect back to where they are or where they are grounded. Yeah, so, and find those connections that other people can access as well. Yeah.
Would you say that this COVID moment, this inability to visit sites and to perform on site was a driving force for you, presenting it in this abstract digital way?
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. We wouldn't have done this. We never thought of doing this without the the limitations. But it's kind of interesting because it's like we're literally just it's like we're creating a map of some of the projects.
I feel like it's a blueprint. Yeah, it's sort of like a bit of a blueprint. Yeah.
Because another thing that was an interesting theme is friction. That's something that was one of our initial kind of interests. And just two things coming together, and I feel like at this stage things look quite peaceful and like beautiful because we were creating this visual thing. I think we just kind of scratched the surface of sort of our relationships to these places and starting to think about relationships to places just initially. But I feel like, yeah, we will go deeper into it. Next.
Could you talk us through the process of, abstracting the visual elements? Because I assume you would have filmed the dancers in a straightforward sort of, like video with them dancing. And I asked a similar question of Janette in the pre-record a few days ago, where, what I'm interested in the choice to, in this case, disembody the dancer from the traditional dance space. And so, what was the process behind, like in this one, for example, you've collided or, kind of made this collage of an organic landscape and then just, disembodied hands. What was the process, the process behind, selection and the collaging?
It evolved. We wanted, of course, because we're allowed to in a digital platform, we were excited by the fact we could do anything, and we wanted to really steer away from what you could do live. So that's why I guess it's more surreal. And one of my early images. Yeah, thanks.
I was going to say the dancers filmed themselves because we couldn't be with them. So they all had different sort of approaches to filming themselves. Although Tor directed them, we had specific cropping instructions and things. But yeah, sorry, you keep going.
Oh, nothing. I was just going to say, like, one of my early images was a letterbox made of ants, and that's I was chatting to Hannah about that, and that's where sort of I was like, I want the dancers to, I want it to feel like that, like, yeah,
we didn't want to sort of try to replicate like a live show and just show a documentation of a live performance and be framed. We were trying to avoid as much as possible just this rectangular frame, and then the limitations of the platform that we're using is Mozilla Hubs. You can't crop videos in an organic shape, and so then we were like, okay, well then we can use some things as tiles, and then we'll make shapes from the tiles. So and then they also have these options where you can create a bubble. So those round spherical things you can literally go into, and then you can look around and you're completely immersed in them. So
all those textures come from the dancers. So they've sent in the images of the textures. Yeah.
Everything you see is material that the dancers have sent to us in response to the questions that we sent them initially.
So I've had a play around with this work, audience, and it's actually quite immersive. There's you talked about, Hannah, this idea of not wanting to have a frame and not wanting to replicate the experience of seeing a live show. And I suppose what you're saying there is that there's this almost like a distance. There's a dyadic relationship between there's an audience member and then there's the performer. But you've completely dissolved that in this piece, which actually has a kind of game-like quality where you can explore, you can change direction, you can look at anything, in whatever way that you wanted to. Why did you both decide to infuse this quality into the work?
Well, again,
Well,
that's Mozilla Hubs. Mozilla Hubs is you create a digital space, and then to enter that space, you have to have an avatar, and you can literally see your avatar's body. So if you look down and you see this weird block, it's actually yourself. And so, and like I said, we were thinking about creating this installation where the audience had to walk through, and so it wasn't a timed piece. And so this is the closest we could get to that in a digital way, and so that an audience, there's a bit more responsibility on it for the audience member to like navigate this dance work.
Yeah. We want them to really enjoy the agency they have in there, and to sit in some places. So there's really great audio that the dancers have also sent in, because you can just sit and listen somewhere as well. I think as well, it's sort of like a mindscape as well. It's like an emotional scape. So that's why it is less, bodies filmed. We're sort of trying to go beyond just body and film, so it's an emotional connection to place as well as a physical connection to place. Yeah. And a spiritual connection sometimes.
Yeah. Because sometimes we ask questions like quite, specific questions in which we were trying to really address like a very specific feeling. So it'd be like, how far out of your house do you feel comfortable, in your underwear? And that's just a question of like, to find out how big people's comfort zones were, or, like kind of to define what the home means to the physical body. That's the kind of thing that we're trying to explore, and our way of doing it, that we could do it in this iteration, was through this question answer thing. Send us, sort of like for me, it's like a pen pal relationship. It's like, send me your responses visually or via text, and then we kind of interpreted that and then created this space.
I've just noticed as well, a couple of the dancers have been able to tune in. So if they have any comments on what it was like to work remotely, then please, Neverhat and Chris, you can write it, and I'm sure they'll find a way to bring that across. Thanks, guys, for tuning in.
We had Nebahat's comment earlier, which I think is quite apposite. Congrats on creating an immersive experience of continuous expansive place within virtual space, within and without interior distance, which is this interesting tension that we've all experienced throughout this past year of what does it mean, as you said, to be a body in a place, which is kind of challenged in a kaleidoscopic virtual environment. Absolutely. Hello there. Would you have any insights on place and bodies and embodiment? As we are confronted with beautiful entrance into our screens, maybe I'll ask something forward-looking, because the children are the future. What can our viewers expect from you in the future, now that we've put Centre for New Geography to out into the world?
Your mommy played it.
From me first, Hannah? Sorry.
Well, from us?
Yes.
Yes.
Individually or collectively?
You go, Tor. I've had
we're about to, it's quite funny, we're about to make a film, a totally different film that we made, and I'm making it with Hannah and Jake as well. And that, that's with some people I've worked with in Switzerland as well. So again, it's on that same train of geography, basically. Yeah, reaction to place and history, and with the body, So it's the body's universal in the context of this, and yeah, so we're about to dive into that. And yeah, with this work particularly though, like I said, I feel like we want to go for, like, we want this work to really grow, and possibly become a partly live show one day. But you know, it's interesting now that we've made this version, because you know, there's something about the Mozilla hubs and driving it, like you say, like an art game that could be included in a live virtual kind of a virtual and live installation. Yeah, so it's really nice to have had to have done it like this. Yeah.
Yeah, we were thinking that how great it would be to see, you know, this on a big screen, and allow anyone to contribute, you know, their content, or, you know, sort of give everyone a chance to partake in creating this place. So that's probably one of the things we think of next. Yeah.
We've just had two of the dancers comment. Christina Chan has said, it was such a great project to be part of. I just had a baby and am also living regionally. Plus with COVID, it all seemed impossible to actually be involved in a creative process. So great to see it all come together. Thanks for including me. And Nabahat has another comment with a question at the end. Perhaps you could answer it. And that's a really profound note to end on. The work is timely in exploring how we are all now navigating new rules of geography. Your process seems to provoke our understanding of our connection to personal and cultural place. Is it possible for humans to occupy a space without physical experience through shared stories?
Yeah, I think there's something a bit disembodied about it, but I think it's possible, because I actually felt like maybe for the dancers, they haven't really felt it come together. But for me, with Hannah, we've felt something come together, and I feel their presence really strongly. Putting it, yeah, like, yeah, sort of, I just felt a bit of emotion then. But, you know, just thinking about them coming in, like, so, yeah, I felt them in there, even though I think for them it might be different. I don't think they feel it, because they're you know, because of the remoteness, they might not have shared in that group feeling, but I feel it. Yeah. So I'm, yeah, really honored to be working with them. Yeah.
Any final thoughts, Hannah? Otherwise, I might invite you to maybe, just before we leave, talk the audience through any notes or instructions that you would like to leave them with, just as they enter the world of Centre for New Geography.
Yes, I would say that that, you know, not to assume that this place has the same kind of rules as the normal world. So you can go right through things. You can go, you know, under, you can go around. There's no gravity in that way. And, you know, it's okay to get frustrated. Just explore, like pretend you've just arrived in a new city and maybe it's a bit overwhelming, but it's there's, you know, it's a friendly place. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's, you know, there's a lot in there. So you could spend a lot more time in there, and we will keep adding.
There is some really interesting details. Yeah, there's some really nice little details. For example, you know, lots of things are from a photo. So if you might think it's an object, but it's actually, you know, it's from a different image. It's made from something else. So yeah.
Yeah, and it's that, you know, it's, you know, if you see something in a distance in real life, it'll take a long time to get there, and you know, but in the Center for New Geography, you can like zoom right in, check it all out. You could be at the beach, and then you're like on in a fur ball. Like you could travel really fast. So yeah, enjoy.
Amazing. Well, thank you both for creating such a beautifully immersive, you know, challenging, provocative piece. And thank you both for your generosity too in telling us about, you know, the journey to making it and your experiences.
Oh, thanks for having us, and thanks for sharing all these questions with us, provoking us.
It's all about discourse.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks. Oh, yeah.
And a quick thank you again to our funders, City of Melbourne, Creative Victoria, and the Australia Council. Don't forget, you can check out both Janette Hoe's Agak-Agak and Centre for New Geography via the Mapping Melbourne website. Head there after this. And join us also tomorrow for the final night of Mapping Melbourne 2020-2021, where we will be premiering Medium Spicy 2 by Big Bow and the Time series by Liminal. Have a good evening, everyone.